So what do you got on chapter 3? This looks like I ain't got much.
Go figure.
Yeah.
I wrote this, and then I answered my own question.
Okay.
And then I'm still thinking on it. I still thinking my answer. I kind of like it, but at the same time, I also understand. Okay, so anyways, here's the question.
Okay.
The author, Packer, asks, what is a better goal than knowing God?
Okay.
What is better than knowing God, Aaron? Right?
Being in his presence. I don't know.
Right. So he asked this question like in on 33 and continues this kind of phrasing into 34 about this. Like what is better than knowing God? What's better than that, right?
Yeah.
And I just wrote, I was like, it's interesting that he wrote this, but in the first chapter he's like, hey, there's a warning about knowing to know. And I'm like, yeah. Books in the old days. Continuity wasn't always a thing. But it was just one of those things that I had I pointed out for myself for my own little notes. But anyways, on 35 here, this is where he starts talking about the difference between knowing about, knowing of. And, I gave you that example of, knowing about you and knowing you.
Yes.
All right. And he writes this, one does not know a living thing only by knowing its past, but how it is likely to react and behave under specific circumstances. In other words, I know that when Aaron sees a spider, how he will act. And
Not all the time.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
It has come to the point now that when we are on Discord calls playing a game with Brewer, and Aaron has certain facial expressions on him, I go, are you looking at a gun again? And it's because I recognize that facial expression on him. I recognize how he reacts, and then I know how he will react when I confront him on something.
Stop it.
In other words, it's not just knowing that Aaron likes drums and Aaron likes his motorcycle and that. Yeah. It's knowing what will happen when I tease Aaron about something. Or what will happen when I say, hey, Aaron, let's have a cigar right now. Or something like that. See, exactly.
Stop it. No.
So I was like, yeah, okay. This next statement, right? I wrote this before looking him up. Okay.
Okay.
And at the end of the statement, I said, wonder if he's British.
Nice.
And here's why. So on 35 here, we're still talking about people and human beings and all that, right?
Yeah. He
goes, imagine now that we are going to be introduced to someone whom we feel to be above us, whether in rank or intellectual distinction or professional skill or personal sanctity or in some other respect. The more conscious we are of our own inferiority, the more we shall feel that our part is simply to attend to this person respectfully and let him take the initiative of the conversation. And I wrote, wonder if he's British at that point. And then I was like, oh, think of being the Queen of England or the President of the United States. I was like, yep, British. And then I looked him up. I was like, oh, he's British. We would like to get to know the exalted person, but we fully realize that this is a matter for him to decide, not us. If he confines himself to courteous formalities with us, we may be disappointed, but we do not feel able to complain. After all, we have no claim on his friendship. All that, just that formality and all that, I was like, oh, this is so British.
I'm glad you can tell.
You didn't get that at all from her?
Well, I mean, I guess I suppose with the whole thing of throwing the guy into from the first chapter, taking him out of a place from where he knows, and then Queen of England, president stuff. Yeah, I suppose.
And just as he's going on, essentially he's building this up as kind of this case study, this example of like, again, this high, important, exalted person, Queen of England, or now it's King of England again, currently.
Yep.
Or Biden. But he's like going through like this exalted person. How wonderful would it be if they entertained us and brought us into their confidence and talked with us as a normal person? And I was just like, man, you don't like normal life, do you? You only feel that it's only for the high exalted to be able to talk like that. And you would not survive in current 2022, 2023 culture where we have access directly to these people now through internet and that.
Interwebs. Well, I mean, he's around for some of it, but
yeah. But he had already written his book by that time,
Yes.
I wrote here, he states by extension how good our life would be if an important person takes us into their confidence. how little they think of normal life. That's my note I wrote. But again, he brings us all up, and I get what he's saying he's like, think how awesome it is that God is willing to talk to us, to have conversation with us
Mhm.
through prayer, through his Bible and that. So I get what he's going at, but at the same time, I'm like, really, dude, can we do this a little bit better? And then here's what cemented it for me in my head that he was British. Imagine the pride and the servitude to Churchill.
Wait, where is that?
So you said, many have said what pride they felt in rendering personal service to Sir Winston Churchill during World War II, at the top of page 37.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
How much more should it be a matter of pride and glorying to know and serve the Lord of heaven and earth? And I wrote on here, must be British. So I went from wonder if he's British to must be.
He's got to be.
But I get it. What he's saying, he's trying to say, hey, we get to be a friend of God. That's much more impressive than Churchill. Much more impressive than, well, Biden. Yeah, I mean, Nantil is more impressive at times. It's sad, honestly.
Sad but true.
I know it's still supposed to pray for our leaders, but I don't know which one's harder.
Right.
That's being said with that, I'm just like, yeah, I get it. Being a friend of God is way more impressive than the Queen. Like,
oh yeah,
the English people are obsessed with the Queen and the King. It's like, get over yourselves. They're just a monarch with no power. They're a drain on your money system. Get rid of them.
Yep.
So he's going through this, and I thought this was an important statement. Knowing about is a precondition of knowing up on page 39. So knowing about, in other words, I need to know that Aaron is a drummer, biker, guitarist. I need to know that about him before I can ever know him. Why is that? Because now that I know these things, I know what topics that would excite him, what topics would make him happy to talk and just continue talking forever. I know to avoid things like spiders. I know to avoid, things that will make him scream and jump up on the couch and go, kill it.
And make me avoid.
Yeah, exactly. I know those things. So his concept of knowing about is a precondition for knowing of. I like that. That's a good idea. Because that's how friendships form in real life too.
Oh, right.
You know about them first before you really know them.
Yeah.
Now, some of that might be jangled up together a little bit, depending on how fast the friendship forms or how the circumstances under which it forms are, but you know about first.
Right. And then that whole about part, it's like, ooh, leads to more. Potentially. Yeah. Or leads to nothing.
Yeah. And so, I wrote in here, you can be head smart on theology and lack that relationship still. So the next thing that kind of stuck out here that I found, I have it marked as page 40.
Oh, okay.
And I marked this statement. And I wish I could tell you exactly where it is. I didn't underline in my book. I was writing on here, which makes it harder to do things. I wrote, knowing God is intellectual, emotional, and volatile. So it talks in here about how, there is that emotional side of knowing God. And he goes, emotional side of knowing God is often played down these days for encouraging a maudlin self-absorption. And I was like, okay, right? But he does also talk about how there's that that intellectual side as well as the volatile, which was, and this is why I wish I could remember exactly where it was at.
The volitional one?
I have volatile. Is it volitional? Did I miswrite a word?
But for all this, we must not lose sight of the fact that knowing God is an emotional relationship as well as an intellectual and volitional one, and cannot indeed be a deep relation between two persons were it not so.
Okay, so I did miswrite a word then. Wow, that's a completely different word. Volitional. It is volitional.
Okay.
So volitional will. Do you know what volitional means?
Heck no. I think I looked it up, but I forgot.
Relating to the use of one's will. In other words, acceptance is a volitional act.
Acceptance is a volitional act?
Okay.
Yeah, I started off on a Google Docs thing. I was like, oh, vocab.
Fair enough. That is fair enough. So volitional, not volatile. It's volatile. Yeah. Thank you for finding that
Mhm.
because I was like, where is that?
Yeah.
So, but any thoughts on that? Because it is intellectual, emotional, volitional.
I guess, I mean, yeah, I can just see that as a good reminder. So I guess I'm wondering if the emotional side of things are a lot more common, or people it's easier for people just have an emotional response to God versus having everything else along with it.
I would say probably yes. And the reason, and there might have been like well, I shouldn't say there might have been. I think there has been a big swing since this book was written. Where it
Right.
maybe wasn't as emotional. Now it seems to be a lot of emotion first,
Right.
and then it's the intellectual, then it's the volitional.
Right.
And I say that, and not to mock anyone or make, whatever, right? But it's, the people that will go to the church and they're looking for that emotional high, either from the service or from
Right.
whatever. And that's the only thing that's the part of the relationship that's going on.
Which I suppose, I mean, if it's only emotional, it's mm, not good.
Right.
Not good.
If it's only intellectual, it's not
That's
good.
not good. Yeah. Yeah.
It needs to be all
All of
3
it.
in moderation together. Because, okay, Aaron, you get married one day to your wife.
Uh, oh joy.
Who knows what her name will be?
Oh,
Amber, let's say.
I know an Amber. Oh no.
I just pulled her name out of literally, I pulled a name out of my head.
Gosh, oh high
Didn't know you
school.
knew an Amber.
Yeah.
Anyways, so this Amber.
Yeah.
It's her birthday today.
Oh, oops.
She likes color green, but you didn't plan anything for her.
No.
Yeah, exactly. You didn't
Exactly what?
you didn't tell her, "Happy birthday, honey." You didn't tell her, "I love you." You didn't tell her any of that. You just were like,
She knows that. That's fine.
exactly. You have that intellectual, about the knowledge, you know her phone number, you know her favorite color, you
Yeah.
know her birthday, but that emotional side didn't kick in where you go, "Oh, I should probably at least do
Well, that's why I
dinner
bought a green guitar, okay? So it's for
for."
her, but also for me, but,
And she goes, "I don't play guitar."
but it's your color, though.
Please tell me you would never do that.
Well,
We need to have a discussion afterwards.
but what if I get a guitar in her favorite color and then write her a song on it? Is that bad to her?
And then teach her to play it.
Well, she doesn't wanna learn.
You married the wrong girl.
Yes, I did.
But there's you need all components of it. You have to
Right.
you have to make her feel emotional as well. In reality, humans need all those components too. Well, not the volitional. You
Well,
don't
what, for, like, accepting?
well, because it says acceptance. Acceptance is just an example. There's other things that are volitional.
Okay.
Okay. Human beings in general need that intellectual connection. They need that emotional connection. You need all of that together.
Mhm.
You don't just need the whatever. And I say whatever, I'm not trying to be flippant, but if you just have someone that just knows about a friendship, there's no actual bond there. That friendship isn't going to last forever. Same as your marriage, Aaron, to Amber. It's not going to
Oh,
last long.
sorry, Amber.
You know, it's just not if you don't have all the components necessary.
Yeah. Right.
And it's saying, hey, your relationship with God is emotional, it's intellectual, it's volitional. There's multiple things going on at once. You have to have all 3, according to Packer. Otherwise, guess what? You don't really know God. You don't really have that relationship with him. You
Sorry.
really don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, well, I guess, yeah, man. Yeah, these are definitely, some of the pages I was struggling through. Yeah, because 'cause they're at the end. Um, because I don't remember even also, like, going through all these different, verses he has, picked out in these sections.
Right. And this is where I'll say I didn't write it down here, but at this last little bit of 41, this is when I started saying, I wonder if he's Calvinist.
Oh, really? Okay, okay.
So I'm just throwing that in there, okay?
Uh-huh.
That doesn't form my opinion on the chapter or anything, but,
Right.
uh, so where he goes, "Here God," this is, like, halfway through that last paragraph before being known. He goes, "Here God's knowledge of those who are his is associated with his whole purpose of saving mercy. It is a knowledge that implies personal affection, redeeming acts, covenant faithfulness, and providential watchfulness towards those whom God knows. It implies, in other words, salvation now and forever, as we hinted before." Then it continues on. "What matters supremely, therefore, is not in the last analysis the fact that I know God, but the larger fact which underlies it, the fact that he knows me. I am graven on the palm of his hands. I am never out of his mind. All my knowledge of him depends on his sustained initiative in knowing me. I know him because he first knew me and continues to know me." It was that phrase, "all my knowledge of him depends on his sustained initiative in knowing me," that kind of that tripped me towards, oh, I think he's
Oh.
of the Calvinist tradition.
Oh, okay.
Because again, if I'm not in Calvinist circles, if I'm not one of the elect, why would God even care about me? I'm just gonna be one that's gonna be thrown into the pit of fire.
Well,
That
that's interesting because
yeah,
I mean, he knows all of us.
just the wording and the phrasing
Yeah.
is what, like,
Yeah,
oh,
okay.
okay. Yep, okay, there we
Huh.
go.
Interesting.
Yep, he goes, "I know him because he first knew me,"
Right.
which is true because we're
Yes.
told that God formed us in the womb and that, right? And continues to know me, right?
Well, so and he initiated, like, well, I guess, I mean, yeah, he initiated with to us first before, I mean, we ever went to him.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yep. And he goes on here. He knows me as a friend, one who loves me, and there's no moment when his eye is off me or his attention distracted from me, and no moment, therefore, when his care falters. It's like
Hmm.
interesting.
Hmm.
What's your thought on that?
I mean, I just thought it was comforting.
All right.
But it's also terrifying at the same time.
Why is it terrifying?
Well, his attention, where there's no moment when his eye is off me or his attention is distracted from me. I was like, there's times to be just look away.
The,
Don't see me. But no, please do.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. I get what you're putting down.
Yeah.
I get what you're putting down.
Yeah.
All right. In chapter 4.
Oh no.
What? What?
The
What?
last one.
Yeah. Look at that. You made it through.
Well, barely so far. Oh,
All right, Aaron. I have a question for you.
no, what?
What is idolatry?
I don't know.
What is idolatry?
It's having other idols before God,
Okay. What does that mean?
worshiping other idols other than Him, holding them higher above Him.
Okay.
I don't know. Like it's. I mean, my guitar. I could love and worship my guitar more than I love God. I suppose. I put more time and focus into things of that,
All right.
and figure out how I can. I guess. Wow, that'd be weird to live from my guitar. And how to serve my guitar. That would be kind of weird. Guitar should serve me.
Okay. Interesting.
Why? Oh
Well,
no.
but no, I agree 100%.
Do you?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, that being said,
Now that being said,
Packer doesn't.
oh, well, what the hell? But Packer, why?
He agrees with that plus more.
Well, okay, yeah.
Okay.
He's much smarter than I.
And so at the top of page 44 here, he says,
Oh, 44.
in its Christian application, he's talking about the second commandment here, or the
Oh,
first commandment.
dirt.
Why are you going dirt?
Because it goes
Second
on.
commandment.
Huh?
Second commandment. Why did I think of first commandment?
Well, as soon. Well, okay, that's better than what I was thinking. Because when I first started reading, I was like, Second Amendment. I was like, guns.
Yeah.
But because then he gets into also, yes, the whole thing of creating images of God, and that being a
Idolatrous.
no-go.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he said, in its Christian application, this means that we are not to make use of visual or pictorial representations of the triune God or any person of the Trinity for the purpose of Christian worship. The commandment thus deals not with the object of our worship, but with the manner of it. What it tells us is that statues and pictures of the one whom we worship are not to be used as an aid to worshiping him. What are your thoughts on that, sir?
I always thought, I mean, from how I understood it, it was always wrong to try and create up images of what we thought God looked like.
Mhm.
And as the thing with Jesus too, it's like why I don't like the whole Jesus picture stuff because it's like that's not well, one, it's not an accurate depiction of who
Right.
he is. Well, at least 95% of all images that I've probably ever seen.
I would say 99%, but yeah.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
Most of them
It's just
most of them
the
are
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
yeah, exactly. The white bearded
Yeah, pretty boy.
yeah, exactly. That's
Um,
probably was not how he looked. He probably was
well, no.
darker skin, olive complexion, and that.
Yeah, and I guess I don't know what scripture it is or where people have gotten it, but or maybe it was just researchers say, I don't know, as to where he was like he wasn't some like very handsome or attractive man sort of thing. So, but it's whatever. So I guess as far as like I mean I definitely understand the whole thing of like God the Father and stuff like that, like not trying to create an image that's depicting him because
Mhm.
we have no idea. As far as like a picture of Jesus,
Yes.
I mean, nobody knows what he looked like, so it's like I guess why even bother trying to make an image of him? Like I would just I don't understand the point and need of people wanting to have a picture of who Jesus is, especially when we don't even have it right anyways.
Okay.
So, but it did get me wondering about the cross though. Like is he suggesting that that's bad?
He doesn't address the cross as per se
No.
specifically. However, he does address some other things.
I mean, he mentions a crucifix,
Yeah.
but I don't know why, but this did I was like, it did make me think of, like, my tattoos or whatever. I was like, "Huh, would he probably be harping on me about getting these?" Probably, I don't know. I guess I would say it's not a good thing to try and create an image of who God is. I mean, all we need to know about him is in the Bible, so why do we have to make up stuff of him? I don't know.
Okay. Let me ask you this then.
Do it.
And I'm just probing here.
Okay.
Okay. Because he talks about this.
Okay.
And I'm sure you've heard this too. Like people go, I like to think of God as the great architect, the great healer,
Oh,
all
yeah.
that sort of stuff.
Right.
What do you think about that?
I don't like it.
Okay.
I mean, he is who he says he is, I
Right.
suppose. So I don't get why we like to think of him as something when he is what he says he is.
Okay.
And as far as I guess in my mind it's important to make sure you're not taking away any aspects of who God is and just focusing on the ones that you like to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Cuz of course, yeah, we all love to think of his love, grace, and mercy, and all these good, fuzzy feeling things, but we don't want to forget everything else about him on how he is just. And, I mean, he is the final judge and, has, he's a vengeful. He will have his vengeance on just the evil and all that goes on, and his wrath will be poured out. I guess, it's important to have all of God together and not just focus on the things that we like to think about.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So let me ask this question then.
Okay.
No, no, I'm just
Yeah. No, yeah, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm just,
no.
okay.
I'm coming. I'm thinking of this as you're talking here.
Okay.
Okay. What if someone goes, they're like, well, during my worship time, I like to remind myself that God is a judge. I don't know why they want to worship that way, but let's say they do. What would does that fall under your same thought patterns already, or different? Because we are told in the Bible God does judge. We didn't say, it doesn't say He is a judge, but
Well, he is the final
yeah,
judge.
He is the final judge. But
Yeah. So wait, what? So
say someone that just for whatever reason when they're worshiping, they go, I like to when I worship, I imagine God is a just judge.
I mean, well, he is.
Okay, would that fall under your prohibition from earlier?
I mean, wouldn't it just be the same thing?
I'm asking because in this case it is a true statement, but is it
Right.
also in other words, could you
Just focus on one thing at a time.
one aspect of it with the realization
Of
that
knowing that there's more to him.
there's more to it, but maybe that time you need component.
It's like a good reminder to focus on this and learn more of this
Right.
aspect. I mean, isn't that kind of what we've always done? As far as like, I mean, especially for Sundays, I mean, we won't take a whole Sunday morning and go through every single aspect.
Mhm.
I mean, you take it at one thing at a time. I guess it's important to not completely leave anything out. As long as you, I guess as of right now, at least, I don't know, with my current small knowledge, I mean, and understanding, I mean, it's okay to focus on one thing at a time, I would think, especially if you do know that all of who he is, I suppose.
Mhm.
I guess think about, I mean, if someone brand new coming into the church
Right.
and learning to know who God is, I mean, they don't start knowing everything about him. They learn more and more as time goes. If that's, I mean, if they're trying to know God. So, yeah.
Okay. I was just curious.
All right, drill me.
No, no, no.
What's
I
going on?
I was just curious
Yeah.
your thought process on it.
Well,
And the
it's not
reason I
too
ask is
crazy.
so he in part of his book here, he
Yeah.
added a 1993 additional notes section.
Yeah, that's okay.
So, um,
Oh yeah, that's this little last
yeah, it's just a little
chapter.
less.
Yeah.
And so I find that he does give some ground back.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, he said, so someone is going on. They basically give three arguments, right?
Yeah.
One is about imagination, how sometimes people just use imagination. God
Right.
created imagination, why not use it, right? Another one is God requires Christian aesthetic expression through visual arts, no less than it requires Christian moral expression through family love and neighbor love. And the third one is that images do in fact trigger devotion, which would be weaker without them. So yeah, I know. So there's those three ones, right?
Yeah.
So he says, if paintings, drawings, and statues of Jesus, the incarnate Son, were always viewed as symbols of human perfection within the culture that produced them, rather than as suggesting what Jesus actually looked like, no harm would be done.
Right.
So that's what I said. He kind of gave some ground back on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Symbolic art can serve worship in many ways, but the second commandment still forbids anything that will be thought of as a representational image of God. In other words, no golden calves. But
Mm-hmm.
if this abstract art painting over here helps you worship somehow, but doesn't represent God or Jesus, then it's okay. But that one's gonna be hard. That one's gonna be hard.
That's
I found it interesting though that in his 93 update he gave some back.
gave a little
A
lenience.
little bit back. He walked some of it back, not a ton back, just a little bit back.
He's just grown soft in time.
Basically, he says as soon as images are treated as representational rather than symbolic, they begin to corrupt the devotion they trigger. In other words, if anything is symbolic, art wise, symbol wise, whatever,
Yeah.
he's like, oh, I'm fine with that now.
Yeah. It is interesting. Oh, I have a little something here.
Yeah.
I guess I'll just read. So thus it appears that the positive force of the second commandment is that it compels us to take our thoughts of God from his own holy word and from no other source whatsoever. And that's where I put a little question mark and I was like, what?
Where's that at?
48, near the bottom. It's like the second to
Okay.
last paragraph, full
All right.
paragraph on the page.
Got it.
So the whole paragraph being, but in fact, he has spoken. He has spoken to and through his prophets and apostles, and he has spoken in the words and deeds of his own Son. Through this revelation, which is made available to us in Holy Scripture, we may form a true notion of God. Without it, we never can. And then, thus, it appears that the positive force of the second commandment is that it compels us to take our thoughts of God from his own holy word and from no other source whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. In other words, what he's saying is when you're worshiping God, what you're thinking of, what you're worshiping, what you're doing,
Yeah.
that you think about God not as the Eurocentric white man over here with a beard, that Jesus, but you think of him as holy. You think of him as a judge. You think of him as righteous. Which again, Brings me back to, so I'm using my imagination.
Well,
Yeah, I
no,
know.
no.
I'm not daydreaming about God. I'm using my imagination in a weird way based on what I know from the word. It's a fine line boundary. It's one of those gray areas, maybe.
I mean, are you really using your imagination though?
Sometimes no. Depends on the person. If the person, okay, like me, probably not so much, but if someone who's very imaginative is always thinking of weird, wacky things, maybe.
But if it's, are they using their imagination if they're still thinking of who God is? Because it's already something that they've had to have learned, unless they're creating something, but then that would not be good.
Yeah, as I said, it could be a fine line in there
Yeah.
between the 2 points. It's definitely not, like some people when they think of only stuff with text, like I know my mind, okay? I may have stuff that
Do
is
you now?
like is only text in a book and all that, but my mind for whatever reason will try to fill in the gaps with other things like either context clues or images and imagine things. And so it can be a thing if you're not careful, it could easily fall into the bad side of it. But I think it could also be because you're thinking about, God is, and then you can list the attributes of God. That's easy to do.
Right.
That that might start playing then with someone's imagination of like how do these then interact with one another in that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean that's what I said. It could be it could be a fine line there, but at the same time, it doesn't have to be. It's weird. I haven't fully made up my mind on that one yet. That last chapter
Yeah.
was a little more on the lines of yes, no.
Right.
Where
And
I
the fact that he had to add additional notes to it.
well, it's the I get what he's going at,
Hmm.
but at the same time, he may be a little too strict, but I think that's a secondary issue. I don't think it's a
Oh,
primary issue, what
right.
he's writing about in his book there.
Yeah.
I could still take him for, a ride around in his wheelchair if he was still alive.
Yeah.
Obviously, can't be, he's not alive now, but yeah.
Not in physical form.
Right. So, Mr. Johnson, first four books. Wow. First 4 chapters.
Wow.
Look at that.
You did it.
You did it.
Ish. I guess I'm glad I at least wrote them.
Well, next time you have to read them and comment more on them.
Yeah, I do.
Well, you got a month to read the next couple chapters.
Yeah, what is the next set?
Well, if you go by the study guide, it's always in
It's
chunks
always
of 4.
4? Okay.
Yep.
Bet.
All right.
Bet.
He said bet,
Do it. Just do it.
which means if that's the case, right?
Yeah.
5, 6, 7, 8. God incarnate. Do you know what incarnate means?
Leave me alone. That'd be like right?
What?
Yeah, right?
What did
You
you say?
didn't hear that?
No, I
Oh,
didn't.
I whispered it. You didn't catch it?
No,
No.
What's incarnate?
Isn't that like God in flesh?
Is that what's your final answer?
Yeah, that's my final answer. I'm sticking to it.
Yes.
That's what I thought. Okay, cool. I get so scared. I
And
get so
then
nervous.
he shall testify.
He's okay.
And then God unchanging.
Okay.
And finally, the majesty of God.
Okay.
This will be an interesting chapter 19.
Oh, what's that one?
Sons of God.
Okay. No daughters. No daughters allowed in the club.
Apparently not.
Rough.
So that was what?
Nothing.
Nothing? Okay. Any final comments, Mr. Johnson?
I hope he gets better with sentences.
I have a feeling the sentences are only going to get worse.
I know.
He's dead, so he can't fix them anymore.
Right. Oh. Hopefully there's more additional notes throughout the thing and they're not as complex
Okay, so
for my little brain.
just for me, quick question, real quick.
Yeah.
Compared to the Bodhi Bakken book,
Oh.
that's always going to be the benchmark that it's going to go against.
I mean, I suppose I probably like this one more so far because it's not about dating.
All right. You like it more so far because it's not about dating. Let's see if that holds up next month as well.
Oh no, I'm already scared now.
Oh,
Did you read ahead?
no, I haven't.
Oh, okay.
By the way, Mr. Johnson.
Huh.
It's been 4 years.
Nuh-uh. Nuh-uh.
Yes.
This isn't the third year?
No.
What? What? I totally thought this was only the year 3.